Welcome students. So, we are in the process of learning the inventory management under the working capital management. When we talk about the management of inventory, it has different perspectives. When you simply learn the inventory management, we have different techniques like economic order quantity EOQ and then JIT and different techniques of inventory management. That is a different perspective in which we learn the inventory management. For the working capital part, when we learn the inventory management, we learn that how to keep the level of inventory at the optimum level and what are the different techniques, methods to minimize the level of investment in the inventory, so that it continues the production process also, serves the market also, and we are not to bear the extra cost of investment in the inventory also. So, we were talking, I was talking to you the importance, the rationale of the inventory management, that it is a difficult task to manage the inventory because the mismanagement of inventory, I would tell you, the mismanagement of inventory can make a well functioning organization a sick organization. It can bring the firm under distress, under the stress, under the sickness, and it can spoil the overall running flow of the firm. How it happens? I will share with you a story, a case, a real life case that happened recently in India. You have heard about the Steel Authority of India Limited. You know this is a very big company in the public sector. Till 1991, when India was a closed economy, not a globalized economy, it was a closed economy, Steel Authority of India was the steel maker to the nation. We had only two companies who were manufacturing and supplying steel in India, and larger market share was with the SAIL, and some part of the total India's market was with the TISCO also. SAIL was called as the steel maker to the nation. Now what happened after 1991, when the steel sector was open for the private sector participation and private sector firms were allowed to manufacture and sell steel in India or serve the Indian market with steel. In that situation, in the western part of the country, many private sector firms came up manufacturing and selling steel in the private sector, and two important firms were Lloyd Steel and SR Steel. In the southern market of the country, Jindal Vijayanagar steel plant, Asia's first high-tech plant, came up in the steel sector. So it means it gave a very stiff competition to the SAIL. Earlier, when the SAIL was the only single largest entity in this country manufacturing and selling steel to the people of this country and serving the more than 90% market of this country, now they had to face a stiff competition from the private sector firms in the western part of the country from the Lloyd and SR Steel, and in the southern part of the country they had to face a competition from the JVSL, Jindal Vijayanagar Steel Plant, which is now called as JSW, Jindal Steel Works. It is renamed as Jindal Steel Works at the Vijayanagar, which is Asia's first high-tech plant, which came up as a JVSL, Jindal Vijayanagar Steel Plant. Now, as a result of this privatization and coming up of the private sector players in the market, Steel Authority of India Limited lost major chunk of their market, because the quality of the steel they were manufacturing and the price of the steel they were charging from this market or from the users in this market, when there was a private sector participation and competition from the private sector firms in the market, when people found the better product at the lesser price, they opted out to the new products from the new suppliers, and SAIL had to lose the market. They lost the market in western part of the country, they lost the market in the southern part of the country. Now they are left with the northern India, central India, part of the eastern India. Larger chunk of the market is lost. Now when that happened, the immediate effect of the company, this change in the market and the market dynamics was, and the loss of the market to Steel Authority of India Limited, that their inventory started mounting. Because it is a big company, it is a large company having many plants, Bokaro, Rourkela, Bhilai, all these plants they had, Bokaro, Rourkela, Bhilai, all these plants they had. They are manufacturing steel, continuously the production process is going on. When the production process can't be stopped, you cannot stop the selling process, but selling depends upon the demand in the market. So, continuous production process, when the demand is not there in the market, or the demand has just say been divided by half, or that has just remained come down to half or maybe little more than half because of the loss of the major chunk of the market. So, what will happen? What started happening with the sale, that major chunk of their sales or their production started going to the warehouse, and when it started going to the warehouse, the inventory started mounting. Now, what is happening? You are buying raw material, or raw material is coming, is going to the production process, being converted into the finished product. Earlier the finished product was going to the market because entire market was with sale, but now the market is lost to the private sector players. So, part of the product is going to the market, but part of the product is going to the warehouse, and you are not able to sell that product in the market. At that time the sale had a very huge large manpower, 1.47 lakh people, and they all, most, because it is a public sector company, they are the permanent employees, their salaries can't be stopped, they can't be say asked to leave the firm, and you can't afford to stop the production process because there is no demand in the market. So, production should be stopped, that also cannot happen. So, it means when the production process is continuous, but when the selling, but at the same time selling process is hampered, is stuck, is interrupted. So, what happened? By the end of 90s, maybe 1998, 99, Steel Authority of India started reporting losses. It became a profit, well functioning organization, a profit making firm, immediately became the loss making firm, and when the losses sustained or continue to increase or to grow, losses continue to grow, then a profit making firm became a loss making firm because of the loss of the market, because of the increased inventories, and because of the less demand for the company's product in the market. So, one single factor, other factors are remaining the same, production is same, your processes are same, your entire thing is same, but because there is no sale in the market, or the sale of the product in the market has been significantly reduced. So, what happened? That it affected the overall inventory process of the company, and a well functioning profit making organization suddenly became a loss making firm. And it continued to be loss making firm, and government tried different ways and means to restructure the company, or to bring it back on the wheels, or maybe to sometimes to say bring it or to make it back as a profit making company. But when the government failed to achieve the say profitability of the firm, or the company itself failed, company's management itself failed to bring it back on the wheels and to say make it a profit making company from a loss making company, then finally government thought of say disinvesting or selling it to the private sector. And for that global tenders were issued in the market, but because of the very large size of the company, because of prevailing inefficiency in the company, and because of very large size of the permanent human resources in the company, the disinvestment process could not deliver the desired results. So, government finally dropped the idea of disinvesting the company because there is no buyer, not in India but around the globe, of this company called as SAIL. So, then the government thought of continuing with the process and running the company under the public sector, and for that purpose the company's overall structure, or the company's say this company was referred to a consulting firm called as the McKinsey, and McKinsey was asked to study the Steel Authority of India Limited and suggest some its revitalizing strategies. So, McKinsey gave many suggestions that first of all your large human resources, which are 1.47 lakh people, it has to be brought down. Anyhow you have to bring it down, because you cannot sustain this much of the large human resources are not required in sale. So, first you have to bring them down. Second suggestion they gave, that you have lost a significant market in India, and you are not, now it is not possible to regain it back, because private sector players are more efficient, they are more expert in the market, they are more accepted in the market. So, do not expect that you will regain the market within India, it is lost forever. So, you have the option is that you look to go out of India and think of selling your product in those markets where is it possible to sell, and they suggested that Middle East could be a market for the steal of the sale. And for that you have to look for the long term, say, contracts with the buyers in those countries, and if you can make up some loss, means lost market share in India with the new market share in those countries, then you can think of that the sales, that inventory level which is mounting, that can be thought of brought down, that can be brought down. So then company worked on it, that company offered some VRS to its existing employees, then some other say incentives were given the employees so that they can leave the firm, they can leave the organization, and then the strength of the company was significantly, human resource strength was significantly brought down. And then company opened a long term contract channelizing agency or office in Dubai, so that from Dubai the Middle East countries can be served, or their market can be served, and the lost market share in India can be regained by selling the product in those markets where there is a possibility. Third suggestion which was given by the McKinsey to the sale was that they have to modernize the technology of their 4 plants, Bokaro, Rourkela, Bhilai and Durgapur. That has to be modernized, and for that there was a requirement of the 50,000 crores. So government thought of helping the company, and that process was also followed. So you can see that as a result of that, now the sale is again to some extent back on the wheels, but it had become a sick company from a well functioning or a profit making organization, and largely the factor was inventory of the finished goods, and that inventory of the finished goods came in the balance sheet or appeared in the balance sheet of the company because of the lost sale in the market. So you think about the importance of inventory management, because your funds are blocked in the inventory, and short term funds which are say so scarce, which are so say precious, which are so expensive, if they are blocked into an asset which has become now the least productive asset, in that case what will happen? The profit making company will become a loss making company. It has already happened in case of sale, and it can happen in many other companies. When the companies become sick, it only happens when they are not able to sell their product in the market. So if they are able to say readjust the manufacturing process, then it is fine, but if it is not possible to readjust the manufacturing process, and if the production goes on with the same pace but the sales do not pick up, so what happens? Slowly and steadily the company becomes sick and it goes out of the market. So we will have to think about that. Inventory management is very, very important, as far as it is called as a current asset, short term assets, and funds are blocked in this asset. Short term funds are blocked in this asset. So as we have seen here in this case, that this is a critical difference and the necessity of forecasting sales before establishing target inventory levels, which makes inventory management a difficult task. So sales forecasting is very, very important. So if we are, say for example, in case of sale, we have seen that if they have lost the market in India, they should have forecasted it, that if we are losing sales in India, what are the other markets out of India or outside India which we can use, or we can say supplement with the existing market, or whatever the market is left with us, so that lost sale in India can be regained from the market outside. So it couldn't be done at their own level, but McKinsey then suggested them to go to Middle East. They found the market and then they improved the situation. So it's a difficult task, it's a challenging task. Also, since errors in the establishment of inventory levels quickly lead either to lost sales or to excessive carrying costs, inventory management is as important as it is difficult. It means if you have mismanaged or if you have misassessed the inventory requirement, so sometime what will happen? We will have plenty of inventory with us, so we will have the large stock of inventory and it will increase the carrying cost, right, and sometime the obsolescence cost also. And if there is a, again you can call it as the forecasting of the sale is lesser than the say actual level which we can attain in the market. So what will happen? We will be facing the cost of out of stock or stock out cost. So that's again very, very important. So appropriate or the proper forecasting of the sales, or the say you can call it as the desired forecasting of the sales, is a very important requirement. If you are able to forecast the sales properly, that what we are going to do in the market, how much we are going to sell in the market, then it's fine. Otherwise it's very, very difficult. and a profit making company can become a loss making company. Financial managers in corporates have a responsibility both for raising the capital needed to carry inventory and for the firm's overall profitability. Right? You have to on the one side raise the investment, or you have to make the investment. So, if you make investment more than the required level, so what will happen? Cost will increase, returns will go down, so profitability will be negatively impacted. And contrary to this, if we make lesser investment and if we face the stock out cost, we will be losing the sales, we will be losing the revenue, we will be losing the profits. So, ultimately profitability will be again negatively affected by not selling in the market and by not earning the profits which could have been possible if we could have sold in the market. Hence, it is important for them to understand the financial aspects and issues involved in the inventory management. It is very important for the financial manager. It is important for the production manager because inventory is related to the production process. But here, as a student of working capital management, it is very important for us to understand the inventory management from the financial perspective. For the financial manager also, he also has to understand that how much investment is required to be made in the inventory and from where to arrange this investment, how to manage this investment, and how to generate maximum returns on this investment so that it does not become a wasteful investment or it does not remain short of the requirements. Effective inventory management. Now, let us talk about certain important points here. Ensure a continuous supply of raw materials, as I have been talking to you. Continuous supply of raw material. So, to avoid the excessive investment into the inventory, what we do is we ensure a continuous supply of raw material, maybe by adopting the JIT, just in time arrangement, but we will have to make sure that yes, sufficient inventory is available with us. Now, these days what is happening, that to ensure the proper or the continuous supply of inventory to the firms, there are two ways. One thing is either you have just in time process, but since we have very rough logistic situation in India, so adopting or following even just in time is also not possible. So, what is the need of the plants or the manufacturers, that they have to store the inventory, the minimum or the desired or the optimum level of inventory they will have to store. But when they store the inventory, their inventory cost goes up, maybe the inventory cost of the raw material, it goes up. So, what they do, most of the manufacturers, especially in electronics sector, in the automobile sector, what they have started doing is, their strategy is they identify the suppliers, because for example, if you talk about the car manufacturing company, a car manufacturing company in its own plant manufactures, largely it manufactures the gearbox. Other parts, you talk about the steel, you talk about the rubber parts, you talk about the glass part, you talk about the say tires, tubes, everything they are supplied by the other manufacturers. They are called as ancillaries. So, now what is the strategy, inventory strategy, so that minimum investment is made in the inventory and continuous supply is ensured, of continuous supply of the raw material is ensured to the company or to the manufacturing process. When the companies design the layout of their plant, they provide the space to the suppliers of different inputs or different raw materials. They provide the space to the tire suppliers, they provide the space to the tube suppliers, they provide the space to the glass suppliers, they provide the space to the rubber part supplier, and to some extent they provide the space to the suppliers of the steel also. So, within the premises of the factory or the manufacturing process, the plant, one area is the manufacturing process, manufacturing plant, on the other side the storage area, and that storage area is allotted to the suppliers of the different inputs. So, those suppliers of different inputs are supposed or are required to keep a sufficient level of the inventory with them within the plant area of the company. So, inventory is being managed by the supplier, but since it is at just a phase length, so it means as and when it is required, it is available to the manufacturing process. If it is not being done by the company, what will happen in that case? The company itself has to manage its own inventory. So, in that case the company, the main manufacturer, they will have to bear the inventory cost also. So, they are passing on the inventory cost to the suppliers, and suppliers, rather than locating them outside the plant and then again facing the supply chain problems, they are located within the plant. Space is provided by the company, sometime free of cost or sometime on some, say, normal renting. Rental charges are normal, rental charges are taken from the suppliers. Suppliers store their products for the company. So, as and when the manufacturing process, cars manufacturing requires glass part or the rubber parts or the seats or the seat covers or the, say, tires and tubes and anything that is available within the plant, the inventory is being managed by the supplier, cost is being borne by the supplier. So, company, without even maintaining any level of inventory, they get the continuous supply. This is the normal model which is being followed by all the manufacturers in India. For example, you visit the Maruti plant, maybe in Gurgaon or any other place, you will find that the inventory place, or say NCLers, are storing the inventory within the plant only. They have been provided the space by Maruti, and Maruti, without maintaining any kind of inventory, they are getting, or they have ensured the regular supply of the material. This is the one strategy. But in certain cases, what happens that say, for example, a company which is manufacturing the agriculture product, or agriculture means their raw material is agriculture based products. So, they are processing it. For example, you talk about the ITC. ITC, when they manufacture different agriculture based products. So, they have, you must have heard about the e-Chopal. So, they have the long term agreement or arrangement with the farmers, and they have the arrangements like that whatever the total crop, maybe the wheat crop or maybe any other crop it comes up, we will buy it in total from you, and partly you will store the inventory and partly we will store the inventory. Or sometimes, since it is a seasonal product, so in some cases if the farmer is unable to store the product, company has to buy the total product at the time of the season and they have to store it. So, there is no other way out. You cannot ask the seller or you cannot ask the supplier, because farmers' financial position is not that good. Farmers say facilities are not, farmer is not able to have the facilities like of the cold storage and other kind of things. So, in that case what will be there? Company will, ITC will ensure the supply of the good quality inputs. They have to be bought in the season when they come up, when the crop comes up, that has to be properly stored, and sometimes the cold storage facilities we will have to use, and the cost has to be borne by the company because farmer is not able to bear that cost. So, in that case that is a different process. So, in that case the inventory cost goes up or managing the inventory goes up, but they manage the inventory cost in a way because they buy during the time, at the time of season, and they buy in bulk. So, overall purchase price per unit goes down. That remains optimum for the farmer also and for the company also. Farmer is able to sell the product in bulk and the company is able to buy the product input in bulk, and both have the agreement that your entire crop is ours, will pay you the in full. So, farmer has not to look for the market, so he is also assured of the sale of his product, and company is also not to look for the raw material, but they have to store the raw material. So, cost is acceptable to the company as well as to the price as is also acceptable to the farmers, and both are having the win-win situation. So, it means managing the inventory means we have to on the one side ensure the supply also, and second side is we have to keep the cost under control also. Investment also has to be optimum and supply has to be regular, and we have to avoid the stock out situation also. Second thing is maintains sufficient stock of raw material, whether it is by the end seller or whether it is by the company, as in case of the agriculture products, it has to be made, it has to be assured that material is available in the sufficient supply, in the desired supply, and it is all the times available as and when it is required. So, that production process is continuous. Maintains sufficient finished goods inventory, because we have to avoid the stock out cost also. So, you have to have sufficient finished goods inventory also. As I told you that we have the regular distribution channels, distribution process, but sometimes what happens that we have some extra or unforeseen orders, unexpected orders, and firm should be able to meet all those requirements of every buyer in the market, otherwise the firm has to face the stock out situation. So, that should not be there, because that will be the loss of sales, loss of revenue, loss of profits and loss of goodwill in the market. So, we have to make sure also that the finished product should also be sufficient in supply, so that there is no shortage of the finished goods inventory, but the finished goods inventory should not be that much like sale that it becomes unsaleable, it becomes obsolete, and firm has to pay the cost of obsolescence, and firm has to face the huge financial losses for not being able to sell its inventory in the market. Minimizes the carrying cost and time. Minimizes the carrying cost and time. That is also the one important requirement of inventory management, that your carrying cost should be minimum. So, it means that is why we are emphasizing upon optimum level of inventory. Too high, too low, both have the cost. If you have too high, you have the very high carrying cost. If you have too low, sometime you have to face the stock out cost, and stock out cost is very, very high. I will share with you a survey done by the Harvard Business School professors, where they have say interviewed 70,000 respondents across the globe or in the many countries in the world, and finally they have concluded that stock out cost is very high cost, and it should all the times be avoided, because sometimes it is not the case of the firms or companies. In our day to day situation also, when we go to the market and we want to buy a particular product, we have gone up to the market with our made up mind that we want to buy a particular brand of the shampoo, and we want to have that bottle available with the retailer, and when that shampoo is not available and retailer says sorry I do not have the product, how you feel at that time. So, sometime we feel that I will not come back to this shopkeeper or to this shop, so that shopkeeper is losing the sales forever. Sometimes the person says I will not use this company's product because it is not available now and I have been say denied the product. So, it has a huge cost. People sometimes change the buying options, sometimes they change the product options, sometimes they go to the alternatives. So, it is a big cost. So, we should not allow anything of the kind which is called as the stock out cost and the carrying cost. Controls investment in inventories at an optimum level. So, finally, maintain the inventory which is optimum, which is acceptable, which is giving you optimum returns, optimum cost. So, that is the ultimate objective of the inventory management, because we have to look at as a student of working capital management everything from the financial angle. How much funds I should invest in this asset, so that my cost of funds is also under control and my returns are also at the accepted or acceptable level. Motives of inventory. Why you store the inventory or why you go for the inventory management. Transaction motive, precautionary motive and speculative motive. Transaction motive means we need the inventory for our manufacturing process, day to day process, continuous supply of raw material to the manufacturing process and continuous supply of the finished goods to the market. So, on the one side you want to ensure that your plant is continuously working, on the other side you want to make sure that your product is all the times available in the market, there is no shortage of your product in the market. So, it is a transaction motive. Precautionary motive, sometimes there can be shortage of the material in the market, so we will have to face the music. So, you keep some time inventory which is expected to be short in supply in the time to come, we keep that more in our warehouse or in our godown, we keep more inventory in the godown, so that we have not to face the stock out situation in case of the raw material also. That is a precautionary situation. Sometimes what happens that some agriculture products are like, because agriculture raw material is available at the time of season. Now, you think about a firm manufacturing the say this sarson oil or the mustard seed oil. Mustard seed is the agriculture product, it will be available at the time when the crop is there. So, if the firm who is manufacturing the mustard oil, if they want to drive maximum benefit out of their product oil they are selling in the market, they have to buy the largest or the maximum amount of the mustard seed at the time when there is a crop, and from the places, from the areas, from the mandis where it is available in the bulk as well as the best quality of the seed is available. If they do not buy at the time of season, then rather than the manufacturer of the oil, somebody else will store the mustard seed. At that time, if we jack up the price, then what will happen? If the mustard seed price goes up, oil price will also go up, and if the company is not able to sell the product at the competitive price in the market, the well functioning organization will become sick. Speculative purpose. Speculative purpose means buy today and sell at a higher price tomorrow. That also happens. Everywhere it happens. There are many firms who, maybe the agriculture product itself we talk about. The entire agriculture crops or products do not go directly to the manufacturers of the finished products. Sometimes it remains with the middlemen also, or sometimes it remains with the firms who are manufacturing the finished product, but sometimes they tend to sell the raw material also. So, they buy in bulk, they store in bulk, part of the material they use in their own manufacturing process, and part of the material they sell it to the other manufacturers when the supply is short in the time to come. To say speculative purpose, by investing more to earn more by selling the product at that time when there is a shortage of that raw material in the market. So, if that is possible and we can estimate the market, we can forecast the sales, we can forecast the coming situation well, then it is quite possible. There is no harm in say using the inventory or the inventory management for the speculative purposes, we can do that. But we should be careful that sometimes speculators have to face the huge loss also, and that loss if comes, then it will kill the company financially, it will affect the financial health of the company. Inventory costs. We all know what are the inventory costs. We have been talking since we started talking about the inventory management. So, we have the 4 kind of the costs. Number 1 is the carrying cost. Major chunk of the cost is the carrying cost, which is that part of the funds which are invested in the say purchase price of the inventory. Price we pay to the farmers in case of mustard seed, in case of potato, in case of onion, in case of other agriculture, wheat, rice. That is the main, this is the main cost, major cost. Second is handling cost, transportation cost is there, storage cost is there. When you keep it in the godown, electricity cost is there, water cost is there, manpower cost is there, every cost is there. So, that cost is called as the handling cost. Ordering cost, shipping costs, receiving costs, all these are the costs. And finally, the cost is the stock out cost, which I have been talking, that stock out cost is a very big cost. It has been empirically proved after research that if you are not able to serve the market or the needs of the market as and when it is required, then it affects the company's reputation and supply chain arrangements as well as overall goodwill and reputation of the market severely. So, we should avoid the last cost also, because it should be firm's objective that the optimum level of inventory means ensuring the continuous supply of raw material to the plant or to the manufacturing process, and ensuring the continuous supply of the manufactured or finished product to the market. So, that all the times when people want to buy any company's product, the product is available on the shelf. If it is not available on the shelf, if we are not able to serve the market as and when market wants our product, then the cost is very, very high. So, all these 4 costs are important. So, keeping these costs in mind, we will have to manage the inventory in such a way that on the one side supply is assured and the funds are also, minimum investment of the funds also takes place, and the profitability is also not compromised, that is also at the desired or the expected level. More about the inventory management I will discuss with you in the next class. Thank you very much.